So Mark, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I want to talk to you. Well, congratulations on being one of the newest Rammy Award winners. We're excited for you, and then we'll talk about that later. But let's hear some of your background. Where are you from? How'd you get here? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I grew up outside Philadelphia in a little town in New Jersey called Cherry Hill. When it came time to find a college, I applied to American. Actually, it was between American and BU. My dream was to be in radio back then. So my college decision was based on where I had a radio job. And I was lucky enough to land a radio job in DC, and it got me to American, which is where I've stayed ever since.
What station were you at? Who hired you? What radio job did you have?
I was working for back then WRQX Q107.
No kidding.
Which was ABC Capital Cities Radio back when they hired me. Yeah.
For you.
So I was a 7 to 11 p.m. guy Monday through Friday, which was a great way to go through college, by the way. Did that for a number of years, and got out of radio, went into real estate, commercial real estate with some old DC companies like Shannon Lux and Barnes, Morrison, Pardo, for those on the call who remember those names, and got a master's degree in real estate at Hopkins, and then went to the restaurant business. So for me, any career has got to have an R and a vowel after it. So we went restaurants to refrigerators, so it's ties together. Met my wife after college. We've got 4 beautiful daughters, live in Bethesda, and have a great business here.
So what brought you to the restaurant business? What was the draw from that, from commercial real estate?
When I was doing the commercial real estate stuff, I became acquainted with chefs and restaurateurs opening locations, and really latched on to the passion they had about their business, and also the artistic work they do with their food, and just became hooked in the restaurant business, and decided that was going to be my career. Left real estate, did a few things in between related to hospitality, and the opportunity came up to buy a smoothie bowl health food store in downtown Bethesda for $5,000, and that we built the first BGR back in 2007, which I started, grew that chain, and we sold it in 2013. But that was the beginning for me of my own restaurants.
At the smoothie place in Bethesda is where you opened up.
Correct.
Yeah.
And before that, I was doing real estate for restaurants. I was vice president of real estate for Dunkin' Brands. I was VP of real estate for Chesapeake Bagel Bakery, for those who've been around the area long enough to know that trajectory. Wow. I joined that company when there were 20 stores, and when we sold it, it was 120, I think. So that was they were good times in and around DC. And I had one of those moments the other day where I walked by one of the Dunkins I did at least for 25 years ago in Cabin John Shopping Center. I was very proud that it's still there. So
that center's changed quite. There's a lot.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing transformation! What an amazing transformation that is. Yeah, no, amazing.
So you did BGR, and then you sold that, and then talk about your latest restaurant venture.
So Medium Rare started really as a mistake, on a whim. My business partner, Tom Gregg, we've been partners since day one at Medium Rare. And he was president of a food manufacturing company when I was doing BGR. He had an event that he had to do in Paris, and he needed help. So he called me and goes, dude, I need you to come to Paris and help me get through this event. It's in the theater. We're serving hundreds of people dinner. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. So I went to Paris. And as a thank you, he brought me to his kids' favorite restaurant, which was a steak frite restaurant. And I was like, that's all they have? What? We waited in line to get in. It was raining. There were probably 50, 60 people in line. And I knew enough French folks to know they're the most impatient people in the world. If they're waiting in the rain to get into this place, there's something special going on. So we get in. The only question they asked is how you want your steak cooked. What? And then I said, do you have a wine list? Nope. What red wine do you have? We don't know. We have. So can I get a glass? We don't have glasses. We have half bottles or whole bottles. And then you order, and you want to know if it's the right answer. I'm like, half bottle? Is that the right answer? And food came out.
This is in Paris, right?
This is in Paris. Food came out.
Typical French. Come on.
typical French, because I'm an American. And left in the middle of dinner, I turned to my friend. I'm like, I can Americanize this. And he left. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, yeah. When I come back from France, we'll do one. Sure. Like everyone says, right? Well, sure enough, I never forgot. And I was shown a site for a BGR location in Cleveland Park, and it didn't work because there's no lunch daytime business. But it was just a little corner. It had a little bit of a European feel to it. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna have a concept for here. So I called Tom and I said, I found a spot. And we're like, wait, a spot for what? A spot for the steak free restaurant we're going to do. Well, what? And it ended up, we did it. And we both dove in with a simple premise. Keep it simple. It will never change. It will become a pair of well-worn Levi's jeans for our customers that come to it. And we will serve and be active in our community. And we didn't even have the name. The little secret is the name Medium Rare came from Michelle Richard's initials, MR, who was a very dear, close friend of ours and who helped us in the beginning, helped me in the beginning days of BGR, but was really a dear friend of ours. So we did it in kind of a tribute to him, and then he passed away, and now it's even a little more special for the insiders that know the story.
It's a great story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So you went through, as you said, the 3 R's: radio, real estate, restaurants. Now you've got medium rare, you're doing well. And you said as part of the medium rare culture, you wanted to be involved in the community. So what was that like? How did you get involved with some of the things you did early on?
So, I mean, it goes all the way. When I was growing up, my parents were very civic minded. My grandfather was very civic minded. And it kind of it was the world we grew up in. And it was about volunteering or, raising money or even Girl Scout cookies. But when I opened the first BGR, the very first Thanksgiving, it was the beginning of the deep fried turkey craze. And I said, don't deep fry your own turkey in your garage or your basement or your driveway. Thanksgiving is not meant to be spent in the emergency room or with the fire department at your Thanksgiving table. Just come to me at the restaurant. I'll throw it in a deep fryer and I'll give it back to you free. Just something to do to help the community, just to help people instead of hurting themselves. So we did it. And, maybe 25, 30 people showed up, and it was a hard Thanksgiving to do all that and then go home and have my own Thanksgiving. And I go out to my car and we're all done cleaning up. It's like 4 o'clock. My back hurts. I'm tired. I stink like a deep fryer. And there's a piece of paper under my windshield wiper. I'm like, oh my God, who gave me a freaking parking ticket on Thanksgiving helping all these people? And like, serves me right. And I was so upset. I grabbed it, and it was a thank you note from a family staying in the shelter right up there on Fairmont in downtown Bethesda. And they thanked me and they said, we got our free turkey, but without you helping us, we had no ability to cook it. So we had Thanksgiving dinner together as a family.
Wow. I
still have it. And like, well, now we can't stop this. That was 15 years ago. And
what a great thank you though. What a great gesture.
It was amazing. And it made my Thanksgiving. It was great for my kids to see. It was great for my staff to see. And every single Thanksgiving since then, we open up the restaurant and we cook people's turkeys for them for free. And it has grown and grown and grown. It's gotten so big that last year we couldn't do it inside the restaurant because of occupancy issues and COVID. We went to our partners at Nats Park and we did it at Nats Park. And we did 1,200 plus turkeys last Thanksgiving at Nats Park free. And one thing we realized,
so you've got people in line. You got people in line holding turkeys waiting to be cooked.
So they sign up in advance, and then they wait. They come and they socially distance a line to drop off their turkeys, and then wait for it to be done. Yeah, it was quite the operation.
Wow.
And me and my kids got there, 4:30 in the morning. We started cooking at 7, and thousands of turkeys. But here's what we realized. The first thing I realized doing the turkey fry was there's lots of folks that need food assistance, obviously. There's lots of folks that don't have the ability to cook the food. There's lots of free food out there, but there's not a whole lot of cooked free food. And, food pantries give away non-perishables and things like that. So it was always in the back of my head. So after our turkey fry experience last year and being that dialed into the community and the real COVID need, it really, it started a whole snowball of charitable stuff on our end.
Which led to Feed the Fridge.
Yeah, Feed the Fridge. Feed the Fridge really started not as Feed the Fridge. Feed the Fridge started on March 3rd of 2020. All of us will remember there was the early news reports, politics aside. The early news reports were, if you're over the age of 70 or you're immune compromised, stay inside and ride this thing out. The virus doesn't survive in hot weather. It's not going to make it through the summer. This is before anyone got sick with COVID. And that night, I didn't talk to my partner, Tom. I didn't talk to anyone. I put a tweet out. I said, if anyone has a parent or a friend that is now staying inside, we will deliver them a free hot medium rare dinner. And the requests started coming in and people started calling to volunteer. We had 146 volunteer drivers on any given night. And we became a humanitarian relief effort, making and delivering these meals. And that went from March through, yesterday. It still goes on.
And you were doing this 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And, 30,000 meals plus. Our entire organization went from hospitality to humanitarianism. We always felt that we had an obligation to support the communities that support us in need. We're the first ones with the turkey fry. We're the first ones when the senior living facility on Capitol Hill burned down a couple of years ago. And remember the Marines running across Constitution to get people out of the building. We had hot meals waiting for them at the DC rec centers before they got there, before the buses arrived. It's just a call to action for me and for our staff. So the original premise was we're just going to feed those who need access to food, and we'll figure it out later. And we were covering it ourselves. We were keeping our suppliers busy. We were keeping all of our staff, and then people started calling.
I'm sorry. So this is all happening when there's no customers at your restaurant. Nobody can come in. Business is basically closed, except
we were looking at the death knell of the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Business is closed. No inside dining, no outside dining, no dining. There was some delivery going on. But this was when we were really, we're scared now. We were really scared. As a community, we were really scared. We've been staying home now for a month or two, and we don't know how long this is going to last. And we don't know what's happening with the summer, with kids in school. It was really a very uneasy time for all of us. So I do well in chaos. Chaos theory is my thing, and I just sprung. And my business partners will tell you, they've never seen this side of me before. I just went into chaos mode and rallied our staff and started working social media and started working our contacts and our vendors. And so we're doing the elderly meals, and then we started doing them for, there's one meal that's really hard to cook for one person, which is Thanksgiving. We did a huge multi-thousand Thanksgiving meal distribution to individual elderly folks and families staying inside. We were starting to get calls from local jurisdictions, local governments to help, whether it's social services in DC or Montgomery County or Prince George's County or Northern Virginia. We hit a nerve because I could put food in an Uber and get it to anybody in 30 minutes. And a social service agency didn't have that ability. And we became an arm of government assistance. And we're getting calls from food nutrition services from all the counties, families, kids, people in really hard places. We were running meals too. We were giving meals out at the 1,000-car lineup food box pickups. We were there giving out hot meals so they could have a meal for dinner, and as opposed to the groceries they were picking up. We even went so far in the middle of this thing as we attached scratch off lottery tickets to each bag, and we called it a glimmer of hope. Good luck, hopefully someone won. We don't know if anybody won, but we were everywhere. We were at the churches. The entire medium rare family just kicked it into high gear, and we were out there Anyone who needed a meal got a meal for months, for a year. Then over the summer, if we all remember, the decision to be virtual or in person for schools was a very last minute decision. It was a game time decision. It was like a week before school started. And they made the decision to go virtual. And for whatever reason, because I was so dialed into the communities and saw so many kids that we were feeding and families that were getting our food, I reached out to our contacts at DC Public Schools. And I said, what's happening with school lunch program? We need your help. We don't know. We're focused on how we're going to teach these kids virtually. And I said, okay. We just saw a story. My wife and I just saw a story on CBS Sunday morning about a community fridge program in LA that was doing granola bars and water and yogurt. And I said, I could do that with meals. And she's like, yeah, another one of Mark's cockamamie ideas. But I called the Washington Nationals, who are our partners, said, can I borrow 6 refrigerators? They said, sure, because there was no one at baseball games, nobody on the concourses. They have thousands of refrigerators. We borrowed them. To DC's credit, to DC Public Schools' credit, they were the only ones in the region that said, we have a problem, we need your help. And where are the kids going to be? They're going to be at our rec centers because they're turning in the Wi-Fi hotspots. The kids that don't have food don't have Wi-Fi, so they're going to do their school there. We installed these refrigerators there and started filling them with medium rare meals. And we did it every day. And people started calling, can we donate? Can we help? What can we do? And humanity is good. And we raised some money through a GoFundMe page that helped us, cover some of the costs, but it really became a community effort. Still to this day.
And so how many meals did you serve in those first few months that you would deliver?
We were well over, Leah, who's probably watching this right now, knows I'm terrible with numbers, and I'm going to say the wrong number, but easily over 100,000 meals in that year. It might be even closer to 200,000, but I'm not going to say the exact number because she will literally jump through the screen and punch me right now. Leah, who's our executive director, our amazing.
She can tell us in the chat.
She can tell us in the chat. But I never said no to many people say to a detriment. Anyone who asked got, and still to this day, anyone who asked gets. We had some people taking advantage of the system, but that was okay because we helped more than that. And the fridge program grew. We at one point had close to 30 fridges in the metro area between DC Public Schools, DC Parks and Rec Centers. We have one in the parking lot of the Smithsonian Anacostia Community Center, which everyone said would never work. You can't put a refrigerator open access in a parking lot in one of the roughest, toughest neighborhoods of DC. Montgomery County Public Schools, Latin American Youth Centers, Mary Center, where people need meals, we're giving them meals. We've learned a lot. I've become somewhat of an outspoken critic of our country's current solutions or approaches to solving hunger. I don't think they work. I think they're outdated. I think they're slow. I think they make the people feel good, but they're not solving anything. So by definition, by us delivering meals every day to those who are hungry, we by definition solve hunger. And I think restaurants are the answer to this. I think they're the answer to better, nutritious, higher quality meals for those who are hungry, including our kids that are in school and school lunch program. We can have a whole conversation about, I think, an unintended consequence of the federal school lunch program is childhood obesity, because I think kids get hungry 2 to 3 hours after they eat that lunch. We went to the American Academy of Pediatrics for our dietary guidelines. We didn't go to the USDA. When people eat a feed the fridge meal, they are satiated for 6 to 8 hours afterwards. An elderly person gets 2 meals out of it, and that's what we do.
So how does that work? You got a fridge in the community, say Anacostia. How do I get a meal?
Walk up the door and grab a meal.
That's all you
Doug,
do.
as you can imagine, when we first had this idea, bureaucrats' heads spun off their body. Well, how are they going to sign up? How are we going to get data? Who's going? What happens if someone takes more than 1 meal? And I was like, who cares? They're hungry. Well, yeah, I mean, kind of right. And I said, and you're not paying for it, it's free. So what do you care? And that's what happened. If you're hungry, you grabbed a meal. And if you grabbed more than one meal, fine, there'll be more tomorrow. And what happens, I mean, the conversations we had in the beginning with folks were, what happens if someone vandalizes a fridge? What happens if someone messes with the meals? What if someone does something and puts something in the meals? And, you know, we tamper proof all the meals, and we have someone checking all the fridges every day, and none of the bad stuff happened. And we're in this now almost 2 years, 18 months. Not a single instance, anything bad. As a matter of fact, using the Smithsonian as an example, when it snows, the neighborhood shovels a walk between the street and the refrigerator, so people don't have to walk in snow to get up to the fridge to get their meals. It's been an incredible coming together of these communities that are in such need. And by the way, the fridges get used for other things now too. We put school supplies in them at the beginning of school. We'll put Valentine's in them on Valentine's Day. We'll put Christmas presents in them at Christmas. So we really have become, you know, the caring neighbor.
And not one incident of vandalism in the 2 years.
Not one. Now we're ready for it if it happens. We're prepared for it.
Yeah.
And we're not only prepared for it, we've practiced what we do. But not, I mean, there's a couple of things that changed on this. One is when I first started it, I went to psychologists, I went to public health officials, and I talked about the impact of putting a fridge in the middle of a community unlocked. And the concept of putting prepared meals in communities and making them free. You know, gangs, violence, you know, what could happen? And we went through all the bad stuff, and then we went through all the good stuff. And a couple of things we do on these refrigerators, we take the time, and a huge shout out goes to Gelberg Signs in DC, by the way. And you don't hear me pump many people, but Luke Brahmi and his brothers were the first to say, we'll help you wrap these refrigerators for free. And we put affirmations on the side. You know, you are our future, you matter, you are important. Free meals here because we care. And we use these refrigerators to communicate to the people that we serve. And as a result of the affirmations, which were very carefully selected, as a result of the way we keep these things so clean. We've got Pat Heisel has been with us since the beginning. He drives around to every fridge every day and makes sure they're clean, they're sanitized. If they're broken, he gets it fixed. If they're not at temperature, he gets it fixed. We're running it like a business. It's not like we're running this with a group of volunteers. Someone shows up, someone doesn't. It's run like I run the restaurants. And with Leah's leadership and Becca Menser, who's been with me since the beginning of time, a bunch of caring folks, we're making sure that these fridges, that people can depend on us for food.
You know, what this reminds me of is sort of the change in housing policy that's taken place over the last 20, 25 years. Whereas, you know, the 90s, it was, if you want housing, you want to come to shelter, you got to sign a statement that you're not going to do drugs or alcohol. You got to get on a self-help plan. You got to do this, you got to do so many interviews for jobs. And then it's evolved into just find them a house. The best thing you do is find them housing, and then you can work on the other problems. And now what you're doing with food is, instead of, well, gee, here, go to the food bank, take lessons in how to cook, try to get some cookware, you know, do all that stuff. It just feed them, and then let's look at the other stuff.
So because I'm an entrepreneur at heart, I tend to look at problems and opportunities different than the average business person or the average person. And when I noticed back to the early days of the Thanksgiving turkey fry that people didn't have the ability to cook at home, I didn't think about it, but it kind of stuck there. And as we spent the last 18 months going to these food drives and seeing people pick up these boxes of food, we would notice the canned goods and the cottage cheese and the gallons of milk being left behind on the curbs. A, they're heavy to carry home. B, it was summertime, it was warm. And then we started asking the question, why are you leaving the canned tomatoes or the canned vegetables on the curb? I don't have the ability to open the can.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we did is a college roommate of mine is a VP of sales at Bradshaw Consumer Products, which is like the Mr. Clean and the brooms and brushes that you see in the grocery aisles, the grocery stores. They manufacture all that. he sent us a trailer load of can openers and kitchen utensils. And we are now distributing them to the food banks to give out with the meal, with their food, give people tools. So we realized that we learned a lot about need versus want. First off, that's a whole different conversation. But people that need the food don't have the ability to open a can or cook it. And here's why. When we all move, our pots and pans get packed up and moved with us. They're expensive. We don't leave them behind, or we don't donate them to Goodwill or Salvation Army or what have you. We go to all those stores, there's nothing. So, and they're expensive to buy. So these families don't own cookware. They certainly don't own it like we own it. They might own some aluminum pans, but their ability to cook and put a hot meal out for their family is dependent on the tools and instruments they have to create that meal. They want to, they just can't. So I started thinking about this going, we've spent more money on hunger solutions in this country in the last 2 years than we ever have before. Everyone gave to hunger. The hunger problem's still as bad as it was when we started. As a matter of fact, I would say it's as bad or worse than it's been over the last 10 years. So to me, the definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is insanity. So let's try something different and give folks ready to eat, ready to heat meals that are bought, purchased, acquired from our local restaurants to keep the local economy going, keep employment going. Everybody wins. We're doing whole complete proteins, nothing manufactured, nothing artificial. And we've built this model now to prop up the local economy and to also get people meals they want to eat. And you know, one of the stories, Doug, and then I'll shut up and let you ask your question, was last week before last Christmas, our delivery crew is being followed by a Canadian TV reporter. And at one of the fridges, a mom walks up with 2 kids, and the kids run to the fridge and get their meal. And the reporter goes, "Do you mind if we ask you a few questions?" And the mom said, "Sure," after they all got their meals. And they said, what does this mean to you? And I will tell you that the answer we got, after all the research I did, after all the experience we had, we never expected it. The answer we got was, "This has made me a better mom." And we said, "What do you mean?" "You know how hard it is when I go to the local soup kitchen and I wait in line with these 2 kids. There are homeless, drug addicted, scary stuff, people coming out of prison for their first meal, scary stuff for young kids to experience. And then they run out of food, 10 people in front of you. And I got to go home with these hungry kids. It's very difficult. And this now allows us to come get our meals. And we have different meals each day, we have variety each day. And they sit at a table and they have family dinner together. And you think about the impact of that now, families having family dinner together, getting meals, enjoying meals. What's the impact on these kids in school? What's the impact on society? The parent not having to worry about where the meal's coming from. Are they performing well at their job? Can they get a job? It changed everything for me.
So let me ask sort of a policy question. There's a school of thought that says if you give people things free, they tend to devalue them. For example, transit. It's better to charge a dime or a quarter for a ride than making it free, because people think, well, you know, the wrong kind of people will ride that. Did you have any discussion at all about any kind of charge, or was it always free? And were you worried about that?
You are exactly right. And it's been on my mind since the beginning. The honest answer is I didn't know how to do that. I only knew how to put things in a fridge and open a door so people could grab it. I didn't know how to regulate that or swiping a SNAP benefit card. I will tell you, the idea came to us from New York about finding a way to turn these fridges into vending machines so people can swipe a SNAP benefit card and then get their meals. Because right now with SNAP benefits, you can't get cooked food. With a SNAP card, you can't get a piece of grilled chicken or a piece of grilled salmon at the grocery store. You can't get a ready-to-eat salad. You have to buy ingredients with it. So it's a weird loop in that benefit package. But through a vending device, I can deliver meals. And we're working with Senator Gillibrand in New York, Senator Cardin in Maryland, and we're also working in Texas to try to figure out a way to do this. Or we're having the conversations about it. But you hit the nail on the head. I mean, if it's free, you devalue the benefit. And if you devalue the benefit, what's the long-term effect of the benefit, right? 100%.
So is your plan to then have these snap vending machines take over the fridges, or?
We don't know. There are conversations right now. There's a long road between now and there. And it's come up. I've thought about it. I've spoken with companies that manufacture vending equipment to work on a prototype for us. And that's where we are right now. One does not exist currently that will drop a ready-to-eat meal. I mean, there's vending machines that'll drop snacks, and there are vending machines that'll drop sandwiches. But as far as a chef-prepared meal can't handle a drop in a machine, it'll get trashed. So we have to invent something to make this happen, and I'll figure it out. That's what I do.
That's great. That's great. So what does your business look like now? You're still running Medium Rare, and you have this Feed the Fridge as a separate nonprofit, and have you sort of split your time, or are you now full Feed the Fridge, or how are you doing this?
So Feed the Fridge, we formed a 501c3 in December of 20 called We Care, and Feed the Fridge sits under We Care as one of its programs. The initial concept was We Care would have a number of different programs. Feed the Fridge is one. And I was 80, I mean, We Care, the food distribution and Medium Rare were really one for a year and a half. It was all about my staff would come into the restaurant, we would order food, we'd make food, we'd deliver food. So it was one homogenous organization. When Feed the Fridge officially spun off, so to speak, because people want to start donating some real money, and we needed to figure out how to do that. You know, I might be one of the only guys to get a 501c3 approved during COVID, but we did, and we now have an executive director, Leah Kraft, who is amazing. You all meet her at your event next week, and we've got a group of amazing volunteers. Becca Menser has been with me since the beginning when we were delivering meals. I met Becca because she saw we were delivering free meals, and she had a real need in Wheaton. And she was such an advocate for her community, coming and getting meals and bringing them to families and kids in Wheaton for months, tirelessly. You know, she caught my eye as someone that just not only really cares, but cares enough to do it and make a difference. And in a sense, that's what we did at Feed the Fridge. We didn't rely on anyone else to do this. No one else was doing it, so we just did it. And so now, you know, my time is probably, it depends on the day. Sometimes it's 100% Feed the Fridge. Sometimes it's 50% Feed the Fridge. But, you know, we do have Medium Rare. We have 3 great, thankfully, very busy restaurants in the DC metro area. We employ lots of people. We are in the midst of growing Medium Rare, taking it across the country. I'm actually in San Diego this morning talking to you. So we're growing Medium Rare, and as Medium Rare grows, Feed the Fridge is going to grow with us.
So the 3 restaurants here, the Medium Rare, they're fully open now. They're serving customers
fully open,
outside, the whole bit,
inside, out, and delivery, fully open, reservations, and you know, we're fully staffed, which is an advantage we have. We take really good care of our staff, and we kept the majority of our staff. We kept.
So that's something I wanted to ask about. So when the pandemic hit, you shifted to sort of, as you said, this food delivery service as opposed to restaurants. But I had a real nice conversation early on with Kathy Hollinger, head of the Restaurant Association for the region, and she said that 85 to 90% of the restaurant employees were laid off or let go during that time, that it just devastated everyone. And now what we're seeing is it's hard for some of these restaurants to get the people back to go to a full level of service. So they're reducing hours, they're sort of limiting what they serve and all that stuff. So you've been able to avoid all that with the restaurants because of how you kept things going with meal delivery.
Well, there were 3 things happening to our industry, but retail, small businesses everywhere. As walk-in, face-to-face transactions were slowing down or halting during COVID, the non-contact businesses were expanding. So Amazon, DoorDash, Uber Eats, delivery, dry cleaning, delivery, groceries, all these businesses were flourishing. So if I was a restaurant employee and I was working for minimum wage in a hot, dangerous place, and they tell me they don't need me anymore, but Amazon needs me and I can drive and deliver for Amazon, I can make more money, work in my car, I can get benefits, and I could set my own hours, right? So when face-to-face retail shut down, non-contact retail picked up. So there was a huge shift of employees where they were going. Now, we also had the federal unemployment subsidy, which was keeping some that chose not to work, not working, because they were making more money receiving unemployment benefits between state and federal than they were working. I don't have a beef with that. I think that was our government stepped in and helped the best they could as quickly as they could. I think our government moved faster than I've ever seen it move in any circumstance, short of an act of war, to make sure that we were shoring up as many people as we could. So I can't go back and second guess whether it was too much or too long. In a capitalist economy, I'm amazed and impressed at how quickly that got out. So that's why I said I'm not upset about that. So in order to re-attract skilled workers to the restaurant business, my opinion is restaurant workers need to be paid well for the work they do. No one can live on minimum wage. Everyone should get paid a living wage. Everyone should get at least their full shifts each week so they can make that money. And if we pay people more, the famous question I have is, if you and I own a restaurant and a dishwasher comes and applies to us, and one's $12 an hour and one's $20 an hour, 99% of my fellow restaurateurs are going to hire the $12 an hour person. I'm hiring the $20 an hour person. I'm paying them 22 because they will show up every single day and run through mountains for me. They'll break less dishes. They'll break less glass. And all it takes is one Saturday night for a dishwasher not to show up. You got to close half the restaurant because you can't clean the dishes. And then what's it really cost you? So our approach and our employees is very different. Path to citizenship, path to management. Of our restaurant managers right now, all of them started out as servers with us. Of all our kitchen managers, they started out as dishwashers. So we give them all these paths up, and I want people coming to work at Medium Rare who want to be in the hospitality business, not who need the job. And we've created a culture for that.
So where does Feed the Fridge go from here?
It's interesting. I sit back and I think about that a lot. So during COVID, everybody who could gave as much money to nonprofits as they could. We've kind of started opening up again, and it's not just us, but I talked to all of our fellow nonprofits, and the flow of donations has really slowed down. People get back to normal. They think the problem doesn't go away, but they get back to their normal life. And maybe they're not sitting at home worrying about others as much as they were, because now they're in there going on vacations and traveling. So we, like others, have really put a full court effort on finding the funding to continue this. We've got our first public-private partnership with Montgomery County, Maryland, at Mary Center, where the county is providing a percentage of the funding for that fridge. We think that's the future. We've had conversations with incoming members of the county council there and people running for county executive about making Feed the Fridge a model for Montgomery County, Maryland, to eradicate hunger in Montgomery County. It's the first county in America to do it by supporting small business. And we are hopeful that those who say that mean it. I think they do. And we're willing to give them all the time and all the mechanisms to make that happen. Nothing would make me happier than to prove that we can solve hunger. Montgomery County is easy. Jose and I are both from Montgomery County, and it makes it somewhat easier, and Montgomery County should lead the way on this. DC could do it. DC's politics are really hard right now. We can't get any funding or commitment of funding from DC at all. And it's shocking, and to a certain extent, that we put hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, of free food into DC, and DC can't find a way to get us $50,000. So we're still navigating it, but it's hard. And we don't have that named corporate sponsor. We don't have the Capital One logos on our refrigerators. We don't have the Marriott logos on our refrigerators. We don't have that. We need that. But I'm not a nonprofit fundraiser. I'm a guy that makes stuff happen. And Leah's a grant writer. I'm not. But grants have cycles, and hunger does not. And we're not letting anyone down. We're making it happen. But navigating this nonprofit world is really stressful. Sometimes it's a headache, no pun intended. But we won't stop. I do believe that we can solve hunger by nature, just by pure definition of what we're doing, and it's working. And we just need the public-private partnerships to continue and to grow. And we'll continue to put this out and do it and not let anyone down.
So draw me a picture. You've succeeded in Montgomery County in, I won't say eliminating hunger, but vastly reducing it. What does that look like? How do you get the food? What's the setup for that? Who supplies it? What's your big picture for all of that?
So we purchase food from local restaurants. We give them our dietary guidelines, and we have a reimbursement schedule, and we purchase meals from them every day. Now, a couple of things we're doing.
You're doing that now. You're doing that now.
We do that now.
And you're purchasing prepared meals.
Correct. Now, we have done we've come out of that a little bit. And some of the really cool things we're doing is, through the pandemic, there have been some career changers that want to be in the restaurant business, or families that had a restaurant that lost a restaurant that want to come back. So through Crossroads Community Kitchen, we have put families in the restaurant business, and they've gotten their jalapenos Mexican grill is one of them. They've got it's a husband and wife team. It's a family. We give them our guidelines. We buy meals from them, and they now have a business. And I work with them. I mentor them. At least once every 6 weeks. I talk to Crossroads Community Kitchen folks about owning a restaurant, starting a restaurant, what's involved, and being a business person, and having insurance, and understanding all this stuff. And so we're nurturing the bubbling up of restaurateurs that want restaurants that may not have the means to go lease space right away to do it. So we're giving them thousands and thousands of dollars a week to build that egg to invest into their future businesses. We are also working with Montgomery County Public Schools to work with the culinary students to prepare meals for their fridges starting in the spring. So the culinary arts programs at the 6 Montgomery County high schools that have full service kitchens, we will be working with those students. We'll bring in guest chefs. We'll teach them how to make the meals. We'll teach them all about the meals, and then they will make the meals for the refrigerators in Montgomery County Public Schools. So it's a full ecosystem of support going in these fridges. The last part of that, which has been the dream of mine, which just needs funding, is putting meal kits in the fridges. So working with our equipment partners to put cookware, cooking utensils, and coordinate a meal kit so families can come and get all the pots and pans, all the tools, all the seasonings, the recipe, and all the raw ingredients to go make the meals at home. And over the period of 20 weeks, they've got a full kitchen and a full pantry and can do that. We've got agreements with Food Network to produce videos to cook along and how to make these things, even how to use SNAP benefits to go buy the ingredients for the meals you like, how to repurpose leftovers, how to store food, keep it fresh. So we're working on this full education deal now, and use the refrigerators as distribution points for these meal kits as well, maybe one day a week down the road. But again, by definition, I believe families want to cook and parents want to cook for their kids. If they have the ability to, I need to make sure they get the tools to do it.
So in Montgomery County, how many fridges are you talking about? How much?
We've got a number of fridges in the county now. I will tell you the shocking part, and we're just being honest here. The shocking part is how unhelpful MCPS has been. We're doing it through others. When we first did this, I had everyone telling me it wouldn't work. I I had the person in charge of food nutrition services at MCPS tell me that they don't need to worry about nutrition. They don't need to worry about food. They need to worry about opening things. If they don't have to worry about food, life would be so much easier. And I forced them into early retirement because I said I have to come after them, and they did. So I'm able to be that change maker, at least. If you talk about you want to solve hunger, you better solve hunger. Just if you tell me. If not, I'm going to hold you. And it's not important to everybody. Don't get me wrong. It's not important to everybody. But if you say it's important to you and you say it publicly, I'm going to make sure you do it. If you don't say it, I'm fine. But don't create that it's important to you and not do it. So,
so Mark, this reminds me of some people I ran into in my time in local government, where basically the response was, if only the residents would leave us alone, we could do our job.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the line.
They're missing the whole point. Yeah, they're missing the whole point. So,
you know, I realized I go to bed at night. If someone's hungry, I don't go to sleep at night. I wait. They have to get a meal, and I'll DoorDash it to people. Whatever it takes, I'll order them a meal and get them a meal. When it's your job, you're done. It's so hard. You know, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you go home, you're done. You turn it off to the next day. I get it, but that's why let private enterprise handle it. A restaurant that's selling a meal to feed the hungry people, you know what? They're going to get that meal out because they're going to make some money at it, but no one's going to go hungry. No one's going to be left behind. And, you know, now the schools are doing they're doing lunch and dinner, or at least 2 meals a day now under the CARES Act. Let restaurants get involved and do that third meal. We can do it better, quicker, faster, and healthier than current government guidelines. Yeah. And think of all the support and all the employment in your jurisdictions that come up from that, costing nobody any extra money. So I'm here. Anyone who wants me to get involved and organize it, I'm happy to do that. But it's time for us to either really take a stand that we want to solve hunger, or just say that we're okay with hunger in our society and we'll just manage it. I'm fine either way. But if you say you're going to solve it and I'm in the room, I'm going to hold you to it.
So your life has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. What are some of the leadership lessons you've learned over that time?
Man, Doug.
What have you learned in dealing with bureaucracies?
You know, it's God, that's such a good question. I don't fully know yet. Here's what I know. I had to lead a group of hundreds of volunteers to become frontline workers. Think about it. Where in the scariest of days, people would come pick up meals, come into our restaurant, pick up meals, get in their car, and then go deliver it to somebody and at their door. And it was scary stuff. And I am compassionate. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do. I mean, there's pictures of me on the internet, you know, running, delivering meals, and my kids doing it. But we all became I had to convince hundreds of people to become frontline workers. And we were bringing meals to hospitals. We were bringing meals to doctors. We were doing everything, going into harm's way to make sure people got fed. And I think, you know, I got more compassionate as an individual. I got more engaged. I listened more. You know what, Doug? I became a really good listener. I wasn't a good listener going into COVID. And I started, when people were having conversations with me, I would really listen to the words and watch what they were saying. Because sometimes what people say isn't what they mean, and you have to watch their eyes and if they're really in trouble. And I became a much better listener for people out there, and tried to solve as many problems as I could. And for our staff, our medium rare family, it was just making sure they were okay. It was making sure they all got vaccinated, setting up their appointments. It was making sure that they all had food at home. It was making sure they were all okay. Their families were okay. If they had a health problem, we had to get them health. You know, going to a hospital was a scary thing. We just, whatever it took, we did. And then for the community at large, same. For my family, it was the same thing. I mean, my kids got to be part of this and watch this happen. What an effect on them too. So leadership for me came from slowing down, listening, and not forgetting.
Weren't you amazed or gratified or whatever at the number of people who volunteered to go into harm's way to do that frontline stuff? I remember during the sniper shootings a long time ago, but we were worried about our school crossing guards because they're in uniform. They're standing at these intersections for a couple hours in the afternoon. Targets, yeah. We had, I don't know how many people volunteered to take their place, to take care of the kids, knowing that they it's remarkable what this region will do when times are tough.
Man, humanity is good. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Humanity at its core, when we are rattled to our core and people are dying around us, it's a whole different part of society. And I will be forever shaped by the selflessness of the volunteer drivers. And man, Doug, I will tell you, I remember personally delivering 100 meals to Suburban Hospital in the middle of this thing. And they had to triage tents in the parking lot, and the staff are all in the suits like ET, like, and I'm not. And I walk in with a mask and I'm thinking, this is it. This is how I'm going out. I'm going to get COVID here and it's going to kill me. And I swear, and I handed them their meals and, thank them. And they had a sign, thank you. And we did it. We did it all the hospitals. We did it to NIH. And I was going in myself. I wasn't sending someone necessarily into that. But man, it was, I can't describe it. It was, it rewrote my DNA.
Yep. It's such a feeling watching other people do good things, volunteering to help, particularly when there's some negative consequences that could happen. So.
It's danger. I mean, let's be clear. I mean, it was dangerous. And look, we had the majority of the meals we delivered in DC were going to the most dangerous neighborhoods in DC. We would see, we would deliver meals at 5 o'clock. On the 11 o'clock news, there'd be shootings there. And we never stopped. And we never missed a beat. I went so far as to go to DC police and said, you know what, you want to regain confidence with your neighborhoods. Let's have the police officers that are on the walking beats go door to door and hand out dinners. I'll give them the food. We've been working, we work with DC Fire and EMS since the beginning of this. But I said, you want to become part of the neighborhood? I'll give you dinners, hand them out block to block. Just trying to get some ideas.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. It's really been fascinating.
No, I appreciate it.
For the region, I'll leave the final word to you. We're just about out of time, but I'll leave the final word to you. There is a survey for people, evaluation survey for people in the chat box. So if you take a look at that and fill it out, we'd appreciate it. But as you give the final word, please give us a plug for Medium Rare.
Well, Medium Rare has been around since 12 years. I've been around for 12 years now. We have DC, Connecticut Avenue in DC, Cleveland Park, downtown Bethesda. And we're in Arlington at Virginia Square. If you haven't been, please come. Dining with us supports, it provides the fuel for all this stuff. It really does. There's no way around it. And we're not going to leave the communities. We continue to be part of them and support them, whatever it takes, whenever it takes it. Feed the Fridge, feedthefridge.org. You can learn all about us and what we do and where we're doing, where we're growing. We're having lots of conversations with lots of jurisdictions, and it just requires money. And that's what we need. We need funding. There's no other way around it. And that if we have adequate funding, it gives us the brain space to focus on the results and the plans, not raising the funds. That's the key. If my brain can be focused on solving this thing 100% of the time, I'll solve it. But right now it's 50% on fundraising because it has to be. Because without that, no one eats. So it's both. But you guys are an amazing community. I'm honored and privileged to be here with you all. I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Keep doing the great work you're doing. And Doug, the leadership you have with this group is amazing. I'm always impressed and thankful and grateful for the opportunity this morning.
Mark, thank you again for your time. This really was very nice, very, very helpful to us, I think, as we try to keep this region together, keep it moving forward. So, and thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thursday, we've got a conversation with Beverly Silverberg, talking about the history of LGW and the work she's involved in. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And go to Medium Rare. Rebecca Hertz swears by it. So